Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In a couple months, it's going to mark my 3-year anniversary of having moved back to Las Cruces. So I wanted to give a little bit of a review and also come up with some pros and cons. That way you can get a feel for what my experience has been like so far. It was hard for me to come up with a pros and cons list because I really feel like Las Cruces is meant for me and I'm supposed to be here. So I just asked some people around town to see what their cons were. And since I'm a realtor, I'm always trying to solve problems. So a lot of the cons I have answers to, and I'll give those as well. So the first pro I'm going to give you guys is a less stressful life. I compare that to living in Los Angeles and Seattle, where I lived previously before moving out here. Living in Los Angeles, I felt like my stress level was maybe at a 7 constantly, and that's just baseline stress. And living here in Las Cruces, I feel like I'm now at a 4. So the stress levels are definitely a lot lower living here in Las Cruces. And to me, that's honestly the main benefit and exactly what I was looking for when trying to get out of a big city. And a couple other pros that I have on my list will directly feed into the less stressful life. And that's going to be low property tax and low cost of living. Our neighbor, Texas, for example, their property tax is 3 times higher than ours. So our property taxes are very low. Throw a con in there real quick, and this is one that I've actually experienced myself. So for younger people that are just getting out of college or looking for employment opportunities, Las Cruces maybe doesn't have a lot of options, and I'm a prime example of that. So I have a degree in filmmaking, and as soon as I got my degree, I had to leave the state to find work. But that was about 10 years ago, so a lot has changed since then. The film commissioner out here, John Foley, has been doing a lot to incentivize filmmaking here in Las Cruces, and I know they're putting crews together and getting people trained. Yes, to sum it up, a lot of times people will go to school here, get their degree, and then have to go to a different state to find work opportunities. But New Mexico has a way of pulling us back in, and of course, now that I'm older and in a different phase of life, I completely see why, and I'm not mad at it at all. Let's talk about another pro. Las Cruces has access to a ton of different towns and cities around us. And when we first moved here, our plan was to make Las Cruces our home base and take advantage of the low cost of living, so that way we can travel more and work on our hobbies more. So that has proven to be true. I've traveled more in the last 3 years living here than I have living anywhere else. So if you're out there and looking for a home base, somewhere where it's cheaper to live, where it's easy to live and less stressful to live, where you can go out and travel and really dive into your hobbies a little bit more, Las Cruces has really come through on that. Another con that I've heard people talk about is a lack of food options. Thinking back to my experience in living in other cities, the only thing I really miss is Korean barbecue. But of course, El Paso, Texas has that. It's about an hour drive. We've gone over there to get some Korean barbecue here and there. I personally don't feel like we have a lack of food options. I can eat New Mexican food every single day and be fine. We do have some Italian, Mediterranean, sushi, and a whole variety of other type of food options here. When I was living in Los Angeles, I used to love going out and trying to find the strangest food option that I had never seen before and eating there. So maybe we don't have that here, but again, in the last 3 years, I haven't really thought about it until I made this video. Now, this pro is very near and dear to me, and I'm sure if you live in a big city, you're going to identify with it too. You can park anywhere here. You don't have to stress out and circle the block 10 times, try and squeeze your car into a little bitty parking space. Anywhere you go, there's parking in front of the store or right next to it. I can't tell you how life-changing that is to not have to stress out about going anywhere. I remember when I was living in Los Angeles and we would talk about going out to eat or going to a museum, a venue, whatever it is, the first thing I would think about is parking, and I would just get that huge feeling of stress on my shoulders. And here, that's not a thing. Now, I do see people and a lot of comments say that there's nothing to do here. I really disagree with that, but I will put it into context. When I was in my 20s, I thought the same thing. Back then, I was looking and interested in going to clubs. I wanted to be around other people and a lot of loud and exciting energy. Now I really enjoy going out for a walk and not being surrounded by people. I love going to a restaurant and not having to wait in line. There are really cool bars and places, you know, patio bars and places that you can go out with your friends and have drinks. And again, you're not waiting forever in the parking lot, or, you know, it's not too stuffy. So there's really a lot of elbow room. And yes, I will happily trade clubs, bars, all that stuff for more room and for access to the wilderness. And to hammer on that note about nothing to do here a little bit more, I don't think people really appreciate that until they come from a city where there's absolutely everything to do. And also, I think people really underappreciate having spare time. I mean, That is a very important thing in life, in my opinion. That's one of the most beneficial things I felt of moving back to Las Cruces, is that there's more time. One of the biggest pros to me is that I really feel like I have buy-in and I'm a part of the community out here. You know, living in Los Angeles and Seattle, I just never really felt like I fit there. I didn't really feel like any part of the city or anything was really mine. It was just more of a really extended vacation. In Las Cruces, it's a lot different. At the coffee shops that I go to, I know everybody's name, they know mine. Same with the mechanic. Pretty much any store that I frequent or anywhere I go, I know somebody that works there. And that has been a really big bonus in my life and has just made for a better overall quality of life. I guess to extend on that point, I do think the quality of life out here has been far superior than anywhere else that I've lived in the past. It really took me a long time to come up with this list because I haven't really missed anything from not living in a big city. The main things I came up with were car culture, Nordstrom, and Korean barbecue. Of course, I order stuff online. I go to El Paso for a Korean barbecue, and I found my own car roads out here. I'm just doing them solo instead of with a huge group.